I became enthralled with Cesar Chavez. He was a Latino Benjamin Franklin, and I became committed to him while I was a law student at UC Berkeley. I led a group of student body presidents from the UC campuses up and down the state and some other student presidents from around the country, and we went on a pilgrimage to Delano. And we went with Cesar out into the fields, and Cesar would go out into the fields with the farm workers union, and they would ask the workers to come off to the fields and join the union and join the strike in order to get the right to collectively bargain. So all of those campesinos who worked under the most difficult of conditions, Cesar was giving them an opportunity to do something that had never been done before, which is to come together and to form an organization so that they could collectively bargain with the growers. And what the growers did is they brought in another union that was not farm workers, and that union brought in motorcycle gang members. And so when Cesar would try to get the workers to come out of the fields, those motorcycle gang members would beat up and strike and hit and attack. And the police would come over in their helicopters, but they would take the side of the motorcycle gang members. They would take the side of the growers. And the law students from Berkeley were down there. And they were living under poverty conditions, but they were there using their resources as law students to do up declarations and injunctions and to defend the farm workers in court. And the tremendous amount of effort that I'm very proud to say UC Berkeley students provided, the law students provided, I was deeply affected by that, and I was moved by that, and it really changed my life. And when I graduated from law school, Cesar actually gave me the Si Se Puede book, in which he wrote, "I expect that you will be a great attorney one day." And that was in 1974. Little did I know that 20 years later I would be in my office and I would hear that Cesar had just died. And I immediately left. I was in Albuquerque, and I immediately came back to my office in San Diego, and I went up with a car caravan to Delano for Cesar's funeral. And while I was there, I learned that Cesar had come under attack in Yuma, that the growers had got him in a courtroom crossfire in which he had to come in and defend the accusations that he was making about the horrible conditions that workers had to live under as part of the boycott that Cesar was carrying out in Michigan and Illinois. It had nothing to do with Arizona. But what the growers had done is they had sued Cesar in Arizona, and he had to come back to Arizona, and he had to defend his case in Yuma with a hostile judge, with a jury in which all of the employers of the jury members came in every day and eyeballed them to make sure that those jurors didn't get anything in their mind that it would be okay for them to return a verdict for Cesar. Cesar, on the first day that he testified, he was the first witness. He found out that the other side's evidence against him was all going to come in summarily, in a most unfair ruling. And the second day of his testimony, he found out that he was not going to be permitted to enter any of his evidence to defend what he had done, and he died that night. He died, I believe, knowing or feeling that his farm workers union was going to go down because these growers were going to get a judgment that the farm workers could never pay, and that was the growers' goal. Even though Cesar died, the judge still made the farm workers go forward with the case. They didn't declare a mistrial, which was a gross injustice. No judge, no fair-minded judge would have made the farm workers to go forward. The judge was so uncaring that Cesar had died. He still took a hardened and callous approach. It was under those circumstances that I was asked to come in and defend the farm workers. And I went to Yuma, and the judge told me that he wasn't going to allow me to come into the case because I wasn't an Arizona lawyer. And I told the judge not to worry because, in fact, I was an Arizona lawyer, and I was duly admitted in Arizona, and I would be representing the farm workers because they had a constitutional right to select the attorney of their choice. And the judge had to accept me. We waged a battle with Dolores Huerta and with Artie Rodriguez over the next 3 weeks. We had thousands of people that came. We had vigils. We had masses said every day. And I marshaled the evidence as best I could, but not very effectively because there was no evidence really that the judge would allow in. The last day of the trial, a miracle happened. The other side entered into evidence the proceedings from the last farm worker convention and Cesar had spoken. And the question was, did Cesar honestly believe the conditions were as he had described them? In his last speech to the campesinos, he described what he thought the conditions were. And I told the jury, just like I'm telling you, that I had not been able to put in evidence because Cesar was our father and he had taken care of these problems, and he was the one that everyone relied upon to do this, and he was gone. But then as a miracle, I told the jury they witnessed a miracle in front of them because Cesar came back in the form of his speech that was contained in that proceedings of the last convention. And I read the jury. I read the jury what Cesar said, and that jury came back with a relatively small judgment that allowed us to post a bond, and we eventually won that case on appeal, and eventually Cesar's dream for 25 years was realized because the growers signed a contract with the farm workers.